Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Glad that you're with us. I hope that you are doing well on this Monday morning. I thought that I would get back yesterday and have some time to rest. I did not. The line was so long at the airport that we missed our first flight. We didn't get home until 1 a.m. and I didn't get to bed until 4:30, or if not later. And so I was up adjusting the lights, fixing the computer, and all the things that I had to get to before we could come to you this morning. So that's where I am. But good morning. I'm so glad that you're here. Sorry that we're a little bit late. Not crazy late. But anyways, I got one more tree to take down. And I think we're done with the holidays, unless I make it a Mardi Gras tree. But anyways, we have serious stuff to talk about this morning. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to hit the like and hit the thumbs up, because it does affect the algorithm. More people become aware of our channel and our conversation here. You know how I always tell you guys that I'm not going to bother you with stuff. I'm not going to be hyperbolic about stuff. None of that. I don't want to do any of that with you. I don't think it's fair to do that with you. However, this is really serious, and you guys know what happened, right? I tried to avoid it for a little bit. People kept asking me about Venezuela. People are outraged about it. They're not outraged about Maduro. They know that he is a tyrant. And they're not saying that he should not be prosecuted. It's just the whole idea of it. And I'm going to explain to you why. Now, before I explain to you why, before I explain to you why, I want you to think about this. Considering, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, considering Donald Trump's history, his background, his present, what he's been accused of, what he's been convicted of, that he said he wanted to be a dictator on the first day, all that stuff. What if another country decided to step in and say, considering all of this, let's look at the evidence. Maybe we should take it and go capture Donald Trump and have him be prosecuted on our soil, because what he's doing on his soil is criminal, is tyrannical and criminal in nature. Would they have a case? Is this a precedent for that? Do you understand where I'm going? Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the truth. Because I woke up this morning and I had to sit with this for a minute, because something about it just doesn't sit right with me. It's not right in my soul. Something is up. You know that feeling when the headlines are loud and everything is yelling, everybody is yelling, everybody's picking sides, but your gut keeps saying, wait a second, I need you to slow down on this one. When you see all the people making the excuses who would say, look, we don't believe in foreign intervention. We need to get rid of these forever wars. We're the country of peace. We're the administration of peace. I want a Nobel Peace Prize. So that's where I am this morning. Like, let's sit down and let's talk about this, because over the weekend, as you know, the president ordered the arrest of Venezuela's president and his wife, a sitting head of state, captured, removed, and then brought here to the United States. And before the spin even kicked in, before the experts lined up on cable news, before social media decided, what you were supposed to think, I found myself asking a very, very basic question, everyone. And it's very simple. How does a tyrant get to arrest a tyrant and then call it justice? How exactly does that work? It's not a trick question. I'm not trying to quick you. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. How do you have someone who says he wants to be a dictator, acts like a dictator, capture and arrest a dictator, and then wants to have him prosecuted and then say, you need to face American justice, when he didn't face American justice? When he makes excuses for people who faced American justice, he pardons them. And then he pardoned the president of Honduras, who is as bad, if not worse, than Maduro. So again, that's not a trick question. That's the whole thing for me. So let's start with what is very, very obvious at this point. Yes, Nicolás Maduro is a dictator. He is brutal. He hurt his people. Yes, he crushed the opposition. He also, according to the Biden administration, interfered in a fair election and affected the outcome in his favor. Who else tried to do that? Who else tried to do that? So nobody's confused about who Maduro is. We know that. But are we confused about what Donald Trump is? What I'm confused about is when Donald Trump became the moral referee of the world. That's what I'm confused about, because this is a criminal president. That's not a slogan. That's not a political insult. That is a matter of record that he is trying, and the administration are trying to get you to memory hole, to forget that he is a criminal, that he did not face American justice in the way that he should have faced American justice. A man who has been convicted, a man found liable, a man indicted over and over and over and over again. I could say that 34 times and more, and it would still be accurate. A man who is still standing, not because he's innocent, but because power, money, and delay have protected him. He was not found not guilty or innocent in a court of law. He was found guilty. And because he's the president, it protected him. And the Supreme Court did. This is also the same man who pardoned January 6 criminals, people who attacked police officers, people who smashed windows at the Capitol, people who tried to overturn an election, which is what Maduro is accused of doing. He didn't agonize over that. He didn't say, let the courts handle it. He didn't say the law must be respected. He erased their crimes because they were loyal to him. Does that sound like a dictator or a tyrant to you? It does to me. So when this man talks about justice, you don't need a law degree to understand what's going on. You just look at who he protects. Power always tells you the truth that it chooses. It will tell you. What is the truth? It'll tell you that in what he chooses. It'll tell you that by his choices, by its choices. Now, we're being told that this arrest of Maduro and his wife, that it was about drugs. It was not. People are barely talking about drugs in discussions that I am seeing and what is being written up. That's what the Trump administration is trying to fool you, lead you to believe that this is not about drugs. Now, I'm not saying that cynically. I'm saying it because the explanation doesn't hold up in real life. If this were about drugs, listen to me. If this were about drugs, the United States would have been busy a long time ago. If this were about drugs, we wouldn't suddenly discover urgency right now in this exact moment. If this were about drugs, cartel money wouldn't keep moving through banks that somehow never get touched. Is he touching the banks? Is he touching the cartel money? Like, what is going on? But the one thing you know that he's touching, and that's oil. So do not get this twisted, everyone. Anybody who's in the sound of my voice, I want you to understand what this is about. This is about oil. It's about oil, and it's about power. And it's also about presenting to the world, at least trying to present to the world, that he is a strong man, because he is losing on almost every single level in policy in this country and approval poll or disapproval. People understand that instinctively, that that's what this is. This is about oil, and they get it instinctively. Venezuela has oil. They have a lot of it. Some of the largest reserves on the planet. Venezuela controls that oil, and Venezuela stopped playing along. That's the real problem. Venezuela controls the oil, and they stop playing along. The real problem. End of story. Period. Shut. The end. Lower the curtain, take a bow. That's it. But he will not tell you that. And once you understand that, the contradictions stop being confusing and they start being revealing. Because look at what happened at the same time. Trump arrests Maduro and says it is about law. But Trump pardons the former president of Honduras, a convicted criminal, a man who stole from his country, a tyrant tied to cartel interests. That man walks free. No handcuffs, no speeches about justice, no moral outrage. Why? Oh, I'll tell you why. But first, I'll let you hear from Donald Trump when asked about this aboard Air Force One.
Yes.
Did you maybe tip them off about
Before and after. And they want to go in, and they're going to do a great job for the people of Venezuela. And they're going to represent us well.
Anyway, he was asked about the Honduras, about pardoning the president of Honduras. It's in there somewhere, Andy. Do you have it? While he was there.
No, we'll find it.
Okay. So he was asked about it and did not really have an answer. So why? Why? Because he was useful. Because he cooperated. Because he didn't challenge American interests. And I believe, Andy, it's a man who's on the plane who was asked. That's the standard. Not right and wrong, not democracy, not human rights. Usefulness. It doesn't matter when it was. Can you just play it? Thank you. Go ahead.
Did, yeah.
Mr. President, explain, you said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different?
Well,
and would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
Yeah. No, was Marco Rubio asked about, don't we have Marco Rubio being asked about the president of Honduras as well, and what the difference is? If we do, roll it. If not, let me know.
1 second.
Yeah. So we have Marco Rubio being asked about that too, because the reason I want to show that to you guys, and I'm so adamant about it, is because it kind of blows up the whole lie that this was about a bad person. This isn't about a bad person. This is about the contradiction of these two things, the hypocrisy of these two things. Really more than these two things, about January 6th and others. But you have someone who is just as bad as Maduro, but yet you pardon him because you believe that Biden was somehow trying to, I don't know, was mean to you, or that Biden had some role in your prosecution, which he did not. But it doesn't matter. So that's how power works when it stops pretending. You see the hypocrisy, it comes to light. Now, I want to talk about what didn't happen, because this is important and it affects everyone watching. Congress was not asked here. Nobody in Congress voted on this beforehand. Nobody debated it on the floor. Nobody made the case to the American people and said, here's why this has to happen. It just happened. And that matters because Congress is supposed to be the voice of the people when it comes to things like this. That's not technical. It's not academic. That's basic governance. That's what you do. That's basic policy. That's how you run a country. That's how you're supposed to manage a country. You're supposed to have 3 branches of government. We're not here. And that's the whole point of the thing. We're already living in a tyrannical situation under someone who is a tyrant or acts like a tyrant, someone who wants to be a dictator. It's supposed to slow things down. It's supposed to force questions about what you're doing, why you're doing it, what are the ramifications, what are the consequences. It's supposed to make sure that we're not acting on impulse. And Americans get that because Americans are scratching their heads right now. Whether you are a Trump supporter or not, you're like, everyone is asking, like, why are we doing this right now? Why are we doing this right now? It's supposed to ask Congress about all of this, and they have not. Polling shows that most Americans think a president should talk to Congress before doing something like this. And that's common sense. That's not political. People remember what happens when leaders act first and then explain later. Think about Vietnam. For those of you who are old enough to remember Vietnam, think about it. Think about Iraq. Most of you are old enough to remember Iraq and Afghanistan. Think about that. Think about weapons of mass destruction. Think about going into Iraq, not finding any weapons, Iraq, and not finding any weapons of mass destruction. Do you remember what happened to the Republican Party and George Bush after that, the criticism they got? And we said we would never put ourselves in this position again. Where are the drugs? Where's the fentanyl that they talk about? Where's the evidence of that? War started with confidence and ended with regret. That was Afghanistan. That was Iraq. The Trump administration criticized the Biden administration so sternly about Afghanistan and about forever wars, and here we are. Now, here's the part where we have to be honest about timing. Why now? Why this moment? Why this big dramatic move? Because Trump looks weak. That's why. I know people don't like hearing that, but it's true. He looks weak overseas. He looks weak and chaotic at home. He looks exposed. And when strong men feel weak, they don't really get to reflect on and say, I feel weak, I need to change and do whatever. That's when they get loud and belligerent and they get aggressive and they look for a show of strength. This arrest wasn't just policy. This arrest was theater. It's the show that I tell you about all the time. A message meant to say, look at me, I'm in control. And when military power turns into a confidence booster, that's when things get really, really dangerous. Now, we need to talk about something else that just keeps getting pushed aside. What's in those Epstein files? I mean, come on, what is in those Epstein files? Because every time that story gets close to daylight, something else explodes. A new crisis, a new emergency, a new headline that pulls everyone's attention away. We were promised transparency. We were promised the truth. Instead, we got delays. We got silence. We got noise. And then suddenly, nobody's talking about Epstein right now. Nobody's talking about the delays, the chaos, that we're not going to be able to get it all out on time. There are a million more files. No one is talking about that. There's no context to the files. Nobody's talking about who's named, talking about who's nervous. We're talking about Venezuela and a situation that Donald Trump likes to do, a playbook that he chooses to use all the time. He extracts from the same playbook. He runs the same play over and over. He's like the quarterback. Omaha, let's do Omaha 47 or whatever it is. And that is distraction. That timing isn't a coincidence. This administration is very good at one thing, and that is changing the subject. And I always tell you to keep your eye on the prize. Don't fall for the okie doke. When pressure builds, this administration creates spectacle. Now, here's where this gets bigger than Trump and bigger than Venezuela. Because once a country decides that it can grab another country's leader without asking anyone else first, it changes the rules for every single person and every single country. So let me say that in plain language. If we can do it, I believe so can someone else. If we can say that we have decided this leader is a criminal and we're going to act on it, then other countries can say the very same thing about our leaders. That would be fair, right? That's fair play, especially if you believe in democracy. If you're democratic, if you do something, then another sovereign nation can do something as well. You have set a precedent. And that's where this gets really, 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 really uncomfortable. Given Trump's own record, the crimes, the pardons, the attacks on democratic institutions. What stops another country from looking at him and saying, you know, we've seen enough. We think this man is dangerous. We think he belongs in handcuffs. What stops them from doing the same thing? And then what stops them? Well, people would say America's very strong military. Then what does that do then? That takes us to war. That throws us into a war. There's nothing to stop this. Because once you open that door, you don't get to decide who walks through it. You don't get to say, well, we meant this responsibly. That's not how power works. It doesn't work like that. It copies itself. And here is the very irony of all of this. A president who says that he is being persecuted at home just showed the world how persecution can work abroad. I'm being persecuted at home, so I'm going to persecute someone abroad, but the rules don't matter. For me, it matters for other people. That's what he's been saying forever. And he's being allowed to get away with it. But I believe, I just got a word. I just got the spirit. I'm serious. 2026 is going to change all that because all of this is a distraction. That is a word, I believe, from the Lord. I'm not kidding you. 2026 is going to change all that. People are fed up. They see through this. They see through the people who are saying, oh, we don't want foreign interdiction and foreign interference and getting involved in other people. We don't want that. They see through it, especially if you don't go through the proper channels. What are you trying to hide? Why can't you put this through Congress? If you truly believe that, you can get a congressional approval, or you can at least alert the people in Congress. He didn't alert the people in Congress, but I want you to listen to this because he alerted someone else. So I want to play, this is Kristen Welker, about why didn't he alert Congress? And I want you to see if Marco Rubio answers it. And then Donald Trump, or I believe it's Marco Rubio, gives the complete opposite that blows up their whole excuse about it. Here it is.
White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles told Vanity Fair that an attack on Venezuela's mainland would require approval from Congress. Why didn't that happen, and will it happen with any future action the administration plans to take in Venezuela or elsewhere?
This was not an action that required congressional approval. In fact, it couldn't require congressional approval because this was not an invasion. This is not an extended military operation. This is a very precise operation that involved a couple of hours of action. It was a very delicate operation.
A couple of things here. This is not an invasion. It's not yes, it was a military operation, but he says it's not an enduring military operation. That's not what congressional approval. It doesn't matter whether it's enduring or not. And what do you mean it's not an occupation? Donald Trump has said for himself, and I'm going to let you hear him say, he says, we are going to control Venezuela. What does that mean? You're occupying that country. You're taking over the government. That is what an occupation is. Keep going.
It was one that required all these conditions to be in place at the right time in the right place. You couldn't afford leaks. We couldn't afford anything out there that would have endangered the mission and gotten people killed or killed off the mission and the optionality. We didn't even know if the mission was going to happen. How can you notify something you're not even sure if it can happen? Because in order for it to happen, you needed to have weather conditions in place. He needed to be at the right place at the right time. We needed to have forces prepared to go. There were a lot of factors in place. It was a trigger-based operation. But you can't notify that, number one, because you don't even know what's going to happen, if those conditions will ever align. And number two, you can't risk it being disclosed. But this was not an attack on Venezuela. This was a law enforcement function to capture an indicted drug trafficker. And of course, we needed the Department of War to support it because they do have anti-aircraft missiles that could shoot down those helicopters.
But we
had to take down radars. We had to take down those anti-air elements.
Oh my God.
On the way in and on the way out. And that's what this was limited to.
But will you seek congressional approval for any further action in Venezuela or the region?
Well, we will seek congressional approval for actions that require congressional approval. But otherwise, they will get congressional notification. And this is not an operation that required congressional approval. In fact, this is an operation akin to what virtually every single president for the last 40 years has conducted. The difference is that when it's Donald Trump, all these Democrats go bonkers.
That's bullshit. Marco Rubio is lying through his teeth. And it does require congressional approval. It does require congressional approval. And members of He has the nerve to sit there and say it doesn't. We didn't want to have this leaked. We didn't want anybody finding out about it. What the hell was Signalgate? You have the very man who you just said we needed the Department of War to approve this and to carry out this operation, which is supposed to be the Department of Defense. When you have the person who is in charge of the Department of Defense or War, whatever dumb name you want to call it, you had that person who is the number one person. He's the biggest leaker of military secrets and operations. That has been proven in this administration over the last year. And you have the nerve to say, oh, we don't want to tell members of Congress or lawmakers when that is their job and their role. And if someone would leak that, they would be jeopardizing not only their congressional or senatorial seat, but also their freedom. So Marco Rubio is full of shit. He's lying. And there's more. But first, a word from our sponsors. Support for the Donald Minn Show today comes from Wild Grain. Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, and fresh pastas, and everything bakes in about 25 minutes or less. That's really great. So what I really like is the quality. Simple ingredients that you can pronounce, no preservatives, no shortcuts. They use a slow fermentation process, which tastes better. And for a lot of people, it's really easier on the stomach, and that matters. Their boxes are fully customized. You've got a variety box, you got a gluten-free box, a vegan box, and even the new protein box. I've been loving the sourdough and the fresh pasta. Having that kind of food ready to go makes weeknights easier and weekends feel special. And we use it over the holidays. It was so great. It makes the special occasions feel even more special. So it honestly feels like having an artisan or artisanal bakery in your freezer, especially during the winter. Right now, get $30 off of your first box plus free croissants for life at wildgrain.com/lemon, or use the code lemon at checkout. That's wildgrain.com/lemon, or use the code lemon at checkout. Okay. Support for the show comes from Lean. We've all seen diet fads come and go. You lose weight, you gain it back, and sometimes even more than before. Doctors call that weight cycling, and it's tough on your body and your confidence. Most people need support, not another gimmick. Lean is a non-prescription oral supplement created by doctors. It's not an injection, and the science behind it is impressive. Lean works in 3 ways. It helps maintain healthy blood sugar, it supports appetite and cravings, and it helps your body burn fat by converting it into energy, which can help keep weight off. That's important. So if you're trying to lose weight at a healthy pace and actually sustain it, Lean is designed to support the work that you're already doing. So get 20% off when you use the code LEMON at takelean.com. That's TAKE lean.com. Use the code LEMON. All right. Thank you to our sponsors. Now back to the program. So you heard what Marco Rubio said there. I mean, about the congressional approval and all of that. All right. I'm going to show you more evidence, but I just want to get this out of the way. The president who says that the law is being used against him, he's saying that's what he believed, that the law was being used against him. And so that's why it's okay to pardon the president of Honduras, but it's not okay to pardon Maduro. But Maduro should suffer consequences that the Honduran president should not. The president who says that he believes that he's being persecuted or prosecuted at home, or the law is being used against him at home, just used the law against someone else. And the contradiction there should tell you every single thing that you need to know about all of this, that this isn't about Venezuela. It's not even about Donald Trump. This is really a question for us, I believe. A question about whether we're okay living in a world where power doesn't have to ask first. I don't have to ask. Isn't that sort of the definition of Maduro? Congress does not have to get permit. You don't have to get permission from Congress. You do not have to ask. Congress gets cut out. The public gets informed after the fact. And so that force is replacing consent here. I guess when you're the president, you can do anything. You can grab him by the neck and bring him to justice in the United States. Because once we start accepting that, we don't have to, we have lost the right to get surprised if it keeps happening. And it keeps happening. And people keep turning away. And the distraction moves us on to another thing. I want you guys to remember that there are people still being rounded up without due process on the streets, very brutally, being abused, punched, kicked, dragged, disrespected, horrible conditions, and we have just moved on. So part of this is on us. If we don't do something about it, if we're apathetic, if we are just going to sit at home and say, oh, well, what's for lunch? Not my problem. It is your problem. Now, I'm sorry, I hate to say that because maybe that's not what you want to hear, but it is your problem. And the more you become apathetic and you say, this is not my issue, then the worse it becomes. And the worse it's going to be for you. So we should not be confused or shocked. That's where we are this morning. That's where we're starting our day off. That's where I'm starting my day off. I'm not confused about this. I'm not shocked. And neither should you be. Not confused, not shocked. You should be clear-eyed. And you should be watching decisions get made that don't just affect today. We're watching decisions that shape what comes next. And what comes next, we don't know. But what comes next, I believe, is worse than the thing that came before. I was listening to clips of Barack Obama over the weekend explaining what Donald Trump would do if he became president again. Every single thing he said has come to fruition. And he said, and this is a paraphrase, we've seen this movie before. And usually the sequel is worse than the first one. So this sequel, if we keep allowing this, if we keep allowing the not turning around airplanes when they're deporting people, defying federal judges, not listening to the courts, whether it's criminal or not, pardoning insurrectionists and criminals, pardoning tyrants from foreign countries like the president of Honduras. So many that I can barely name them. If we keep doing that, then it's going to get worse. The next one will be worse. And he is already saying he's going to do it to Colombia, to other countries. What does he want to be? The dictator of the world? This is why people wonder, well, what is he so loving of Putin? And he keeps talking about Putin and he's whatever, but he keeps talking shit about Zelensky, but he loves Putin and he barely ever criticizes Putin. Because Putin is his boy. That's what he wants to be. He wants to be Putin. He would love to be Barack Obama, but he doesn't have the intellect. He would love to be Barack Obama, but he doesn't have the looks. He would love to be Barack Obama, but he doesn't have the youth. He would love to be Barack Obama, but he can't play golf as well. He's not a good enough golfer. He would love to be Barack Obama, but he doesn't have the athleticism, nor the body, nor the looks, nor the education, nor the respect. And that kills him. But he can be someone like Putin, a thug. That's easy. All you have to do is pretend. Be a strong-arm people. As I told you the day after, the first day I came back after New Year's, there's a difference between power versus force. Barack Obama was a powerful president. Donald Trump is a forceful president. Power always wins out rather than force. It's a much more appealing process. and it's one that demands and creates extended change, permanent change. Everything that Donald Trump is doing is reversible and quicker than you think. I used to think, oh, it's going to take decades and decades. It's not going to take that long. He would love to be Barack Obama, but he can't. He doesn't have the melanin. He doesn't have the range. But he can be a short tyrant, dictator, strongman from Russia who was not that smart, but smart enough to be a thug, smart enough to be mob boss like. And that's what Donald Trump is smart enough to be and to do. That's what he has the intellect to do. More evidence of what I'm talking about, but first a word from our sponsors. Support for the show comes from Fatty 15. Now, I think a lot about aging, not just how long we live, but how well we live. Energy, sleep, joints, focus, all of it. You notice that when those things change. Fatty 15 is based on a major scientific breakthrough. It is the first new essential fatty acid discovered in over 90 years. It's called C15, and it supports cellular health and healthy aging. The benefits were discovered while helping aging dolphins live longer, healthier lives. Since then, more than 100 studies show C15 helps strengthen cells and slow biological aging. It's really true. That's how it was discovered. So when we don't get enough or our cells become more fragile, you need some help, maybe something on top to help it. So personally, I've noticed better sleep and steadier energy. Fatty 15 is vegan, patented, and delivers more cellular benefits than fish oil. Get 15% off of their 90-day starter kit at fatty15.com/lemon with the code LEMON. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. A new year doesn't require a new you. Sometimes it just means a lighter you, less burdened, less stuck, less weighed down. Therapy can help with that. It gives you space to understand what's holding you back and what you're ready to let go of. So BetterHelp makes it easy. Their therapists are fully licensed, professionally vetted, and they handle the matching process for you. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time. They have over 30,000 therapists and have helped more than 5 million people. Their live sessions average a 4.9 out of 5 rating. It's private, it's convenient, and it's entirely online. Get 10% off of your first month at betterhelp.com/lemon. That's betterhelp.com/lemon. Thanks to our sponsors. So much to our sponsors. Now for the evidence. And you guys are going to want it. Okay, you ready? Everybody turn up the volume, okay? If you are Fritz and you're driving around in the taxi listening to me, hello, good morning to you, Fritz. And I want you to turn up the volume because I'm going to show you the evidence of what I talked about, okay? Sometimes I like to weave it in. Sometimes I just like to show it to you at the end. I think it's easier sometimes to just talk about it and then to digest it afterwards. So this is Maduro arriving at the New York courthouse, and we will probably see him a little bit later on today. This is from NBC, I think a full screen. Maduro arrives at New York courthouse. Okay. So there should be, I think there's a photograph of him arriving. Do we have that? I see that in the note. No, it's in the chain.
Just the full screen.
Okay, there's one in the chain of him at the courthouse in the text chain, if we get that one. Okay, so we have that of him arriving. We'll show that to you. And then here's Donald Trump. When I said that Marco Rubio was lying when he said this was not an occupation, because Donald Trump is saying we're in charge of Venezuela. Here it is.
Venezuela right now. Have you spoken to the newly sworn in president there, Rodriguez? And what are your thoughts on the entire situation? You said the U.S. would run Venezuela.
We're dealing with the people. We're dealing with the people that just got sworn in. And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
No, I haven't, but other people have.
Do you want to?
Yeah, at the right time I will.
So that's what he's saying. He's saying that we're in charge. Is that not an occupation? Is that not an invasion? George Stephanopoulos asked Marco Rubio about who is running Venezuela.
President Trump was pretty clear yesterday. He said the United States is going to run Venezuela. Under what legal authority?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen here is that we have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest of the United States and the interest of the Venezuelan people are met. And that's what we intend to do. So that leverage remains, that leverage is ongoing, and we expect that it's going to lead to results here. We're hopeful that it does, positive results for the people of Venezuela, but ultimately, most importantly for us, in the national interest of the United States. We will no longer have, hopefully, as we move forward here, we'll set the conditions so that we no longer have in our hemisphere a Venezuela that's the crossroads for many of our adversaries around the world, including Iran and Hezbollah, is no longer sending us drug gangs, is no longer sending us drug boats, is no longer a narco-trafficking paradise for all those drugs coming out of Colombia to going through the Caribbean and towards the United States. And obviously, we want a better future for the people of Venezuela. We want them to have an oil industry where the wealth goes to the people, not to a handful of corrupt individuals and stolen by, pirates all over the world. That's what we're working towards, and we intend to use the leverage we have to help achieve that.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
Pause, please. So that was supposed to be, he was supposed to answer the question. I kept wondering when he was going to answer the question, what's the legal authority? And I like how George just said, he didn't go, you didn't answer the question. He just said, I will ask the question again. And then Marco Rubio becomes upset by it, but he's not giving the legal authority. He's talking about the outcome that he wants, not the legal authority. Is this man qualified to be Secretary of State? It certainly doesn't sound like it. Keep going.
Well, I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen. As far as what our legal authority is on the quarantine, I'm very simple. We have court orders. These are sanctioned boats, and we get orders from courts to go after and seize these sanctions. So I don't know, is a court not a legal authority?
That's not the legal authority. That's not the legal authority. You don't say, we're doing this, and we're going to take it to court to figure out what it is. You say, under this law, under this article, under this. I don't have to explain that to you guys, do I? Again, Marco Rubio is full of shit, and that is, thank you very much. That's Maduro and his wife arriving to go to a federal court this morning. And then we'll hear from them in a little bit. Thank you for that, Andy. And so that's where we are. Marco Rubio was asked why Trump didn't seek congressional approval. I think we played that, and he talked about why. Trump says that the oil companies are going into Venezuela. Now, when I told you that this was about oil, this is about oil. And then, I'm not hearing the administration talk about oil, any of that stuff, or drugs. I mean, they're trying to pretend that it's drugs, but this is really about the oil. Donald Trump always gives the plot away. He always says the quiet part out loud. This is him talking about the oil companies.
You take down the source of the problem. President Trump didn't wake up one day and say, hey, let's take Venezuela. He did what other people talked about, but didn't have the balls or the guts.
What? Lindsey Graham, why are you talking? Why isn't Lindsey Graham standing there saying, Mr. President, you need to give us the approval for this, or we need to give you the approval for this? That's how things work. Instead, he is bootlicking on the plane. At first, I thought this was AI. I said, this has to be AI. First of all, he looks more like somebody's aunt every single day dressed in a suit. It's weird. Why is he there screaming on air? Look how Trump is looking at him. This is bizarre. Go ahead, Lindsey Graham.
To do it. This is a good thing. This is not interventionism. This is making America safer. We're going to be more prosperous because of the business deals. There are going to be Americans alive today.
He just gave it away. We're going to be more prosperous because of the business deals. It's always about money with these guys. We're going to be more profitable because of the business deals. Prosperous. That's it right there. This is about the oil. Lutnick is like, Lindsey, shut up. Shh. Don't say it. There's some money somewhere. Something's up with this. Keep going.
Because he shut down a narco-terrorist state called Venezuela. This is a good thing, not a bad thing.
And the oil companies are going to go in and rebuild their system. They're going to spend billions of dollars, and they're going to take the oil out of the ground, and we're taking back what they stole. Remember, they stole our property. It was the greatest theft in the history of America. Nobody has ever stolen our property like they have. They took our oil away from us. They took the infrastructure away. And all that infrastructure is rotted and decayed. And the oil companies are going to go in and rebuild it. We're not going to spend very much money at all, if anything. But the oil companies are going to go, we're going to take our oil back. But we're going to also do things that, when you look at what he did, the drugs are terrible, but also terrible. He sent hundreds of thousands of people into our country that should not be here. And that means from prisons. That means Tren de Aragua, the gang, Tren de Aragua, that comes out of Maduro's country. He was very friendly with that gang.
Lindsey Graham. Oh my God.
They're having a hard time right now. You know, we had Tren de Aragua all over Washington, D.C., and they got the hell beat out of them.
All right, good, stop. He just keeps coming up with different excuses when it's really the one that he is, the one that he's saying it's the oil. And Lindsey Graham standing, yeah, Lindsey. I mean, Lindsey. Come on, man. He's about to like get on his knees and pray. By the way, Donald Trump also talked about the oil companies. Now, remember what Marco Rubio said. They did not want anybody leaking. They did not want to tip anybody off. None of it, meaning Congress, and lawmakers. They didn't want any of that. But guess who Donald Trump tipped off? If this doesn't give you a tip about what it is, watch.
Did you speak with them before the operation took place?
Yes.
Did you maybe tip them off about
Before and after. And they want to go in, and they're going to do a great job for the people of Venezuela. And they're going to represent us well.
He tipped off the oil companies. It's not that hard, people. And that's why Republicans are having such a hard time trying to explain this all over the conservative media and on the Fox News. And Lindsey Graham is there. I mean, just, is he going to get down there and shine Donald Trump's shoes, get on his knees and shine Donald Trump's shoes? Like, what the fuck, man? Donald Trump, again, just in case you don't want to know, just in case, Donald Trump says, this is about oil. This is not about political prisoners. I just want you to hear it.
Go ahead.
Now, are you going to demand that Delcy Rodriguez let opposition figures return or free any political prisoners?
We haven't gotten to that yet. Right now, what we want to do is fix up the oil, fix up the country, bring the country back, and then have elections.
Now, is it fair?
We better bring the country back. Otherwise, you're going to have a mess that's so bad. It was really bad. It's going to get a lot worse unless we go in and fix it.
Is the U.S. going to?
They want to fix the oil. He's telling you that. And I don't know why the reporters are like, wait a minute, you're saying it's all this, but then you just keep saying it is the oil. What is it? What is it? And no one asked him, what if another sovereign nation decided that you, based on your history, should be detained and prosecuted? Well, how would you feel about that? What would you do? Rand Paul is blowing up Donald Trump's whole fentanyl lie about drugs and fentanyl. Here he is.
Number one, there is no fentanyl made in Venezuela. Not just a little bit, there's none being made in Venezuela. These are outboard boats that, in order for them to get to Miami, would have to stop and refuel 20 times. They're in all likely going to Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island right off of the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about this. But number one is the broader principle of when can you kill people indiscriminately? When you're at war. That's why when we declare war, it's supposed to be done by Congress. It's supposed to be thoughtful. It's supposed to be debated. And we're not supposed to do it willy-nilly. And then when you have war, you just kill people in the war zone. And even then there are rules of engagement. But interdicting drugs has always been a criminal activity and a criminal anti-crime sort of activity where we don't just summarily execute people. We actually present evidence and convict them.
just remember, I said everything gets worse, right? The next move becomes worse. So, Colombia, look out. Cuba, look out. Greenland, look out. Now, I'm not just saying that. The Trump administration is saying that. Donald Trump is saying it himself. Lindsey Graham has said it himself as well. Donald Trump says the EU needs us to have Greenland. So there you go. That's where we are this morning, everyone. It's really outrageous that we're here in this moment. This is one that you need to be worried about. This is one that you need to pay attention to. This is when you demand lawmakers, and I mean Democratic lawmakers, to pay attention, to be woke, meaning to be aware and to wake up and stop allowing Republicans to run roughshod over you. Not allowing Donald Trump to get away with this. But as I said, 2026, I do believe it's going to be the change that we need. I believe that with all my heart and soul. Because this cannot continue on. The American people cannot continue to go on this way unless we don't believe in democracy at all, which it appears that we don't. We don't unless we do not believe in democracy at all. So if you want to know anything about the show, you can go to donlemon.com. donlemon.com, and you can click anywhere there on watch. It'll take you to our YouTube channel, or you can click on any of those things where it says stream. If you're on our YouTube channel, become a subscriber. It's free. I met so many people who say, I watch every day, all the time, both shows. I said, are you subscribed? And they go, I think so. I'm not sure. I get notifications. Just because you get notifications doesn't mean that you're subscribed. I don't believe. But just make sure you're subscribed. It's free. And become a member. That's how we stay viable out here on these streaming streets, by you becoming a member and supporting, okay? So thank you so much. And thank you, proud liberal, to you for your generous support of independent media. We appreciate it. Also, you can catch us on Substack and Twitch. Go to our Twitch page. If you click on, if you go to stream, the last thing over there is Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Don Lemon. And there we are, live on Twitch. You can see us there. And so, yeah, we're a little bit delayed. We're also on Substack. Take us over to the Substack, if you don't mind, Andy. We're also on the Substack. And then there you go. If you go down, you can see us live on the Substack. It's also a little bit delayed. So there you go. Substack seems to be a little bit more delayed than the Twitch. Okay, so there you go, guys. So thank you for supporting us. Also, our merch store is there too. I forgot. It's on donlemon.com as well. Go to our merch store. You can buy all of the stuff that you love. You can get some of the Christmas stuff that's still there, some of the holiday stuff, and you can have it for next year. The ornament, I don't know if it's sold out, but maybe it's getting close. But you guys need to, if you want to do that, you can get it. So we appreciate all of your support. Check out our merch. Thank you for becoming a member. Welcome to the Lemon Nation, Barbara PS6E. Thank you for your generous support. Magnificent Lies. They didn't steal any oil. They bought the rigging from the oil companies in 1976. Yeah, look, we know. It's unbelievable. Thank you for that. Thank you for your generous support, okay? So everybody, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be informed without being inundated. So now you know, look, you know. Now you know what's going on. And you know this is about oil. And you know this because it's a distraction from the Epstein files. And you know that he's doing this because he's weak and his poll numbers are terrible. And he's worried. And he's worried about the midterms in 2026. So now you know. So go enjoy your day and then tune back into us at 5 o'clock. Be informed without being inundated. Don't sit there and get outraged. I call it outrage porn, just by watching TV all day or listening to the radio or news reports all day. Be informed without being inundated. Until I see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern here on the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel. Turn the TV off. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.